Thank you very much. A short time ago, the U.S. military carried out massive precision strikes on the three key nuclear facilities in the Iranian regime: Fordow, Natanz, and Esfahan. Everybody heard those names for years as they built this horribly destructive enterprise. Our objective was the destruction of Iran's nuclear enrichment capacity and a stop to the nuclear threat posed by the world's #1 state sponsor of terror. Tonight, I can report to the world that the strikes were a spectacular military success. Iran's key nuclear enrichment facilities have been completely and totally obliterated. Iran, the bully of the Middle East, must now make peace. If they do not, future attacks will be far greater and a lot easier. For 40 years, Iran has been saying death to America, death to Israel. They have been killing our people, blowing off their arms, blowing off their legs with roadside bombs. That was their specialty. We lost over 1,000 people, and hundreds of thousands throughout the Middle East and around the world have died as a direct result of their hate. In particular, so many were killed by their general, Qasem Soleimani. I decided a long time ago that I would not let this happen. It will not continue. I want to thank and congratulate Prime Minister Bibi Netanyahu. We worked as a team like perhaps no team has ever worked before. And we've gone a long way to erasing this horrible threat to Israel. I want to thank the Israeli military for the wonderful job they've done. And most importantly, I want to congratulate the great American patriots who flew those magnificent machines tonight, and all of the United States military on an operation the likes of which the world has not seen in many, many decades. Hopefully, we will no longer need their services in this capacity. I hope that's so. I also want to congratulate the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, General Dan Raisin-Kane, spectacular general, and all of the brilliant military minds involved in this attack. With all of that being said, this cannot continue. There will be either peace or there will be tragedy for Iran far greater than we have witnessed over the last 8 days. Remember, there are many targets left. Tonight's was the most difficult of them all, by far, and perhaps the most lethal. But if peace does not come quickly, we will go after those other targets with precision, speed, and skill. Most of them can be taken out in a matter of minutes. There's no military in the world that could have done what we did tonight, not even close. There has never been a military that could do what took place just a little while ago. Tomorrow, General Kane, Secretary of Defense, Pete Hegseth will have a press conference at 8 a.m. at the Pentagon. And I want to just thank everybody, and in particular, God. I want to just say we love you, God, and we love our great military. Protect them. God bless the Middle East. God bless Israel. And God bless America. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Okay, short and sweet, right? Didn't plan to go live here, but given how big of an event this is, we had to make an appearance, right? Now, for the people who follow me every day, I am reacting to this announcement of America officially dropping bombs on Iranian nuclear facilities. And I want to see what you guys think about it. We're going to look at some of the reactions on social media. We're going to go over, obviously, the major sides to this entire debate because there's quite a few. And we're going to discuss it, right? Have a fun time talking about it here. And let me just tell you guys the bottom line up front. The military soldiers who are involved in this operation, they are okay. I guarantee you they were happy to do it. I can't tell you enough that when you serve in the military, the biggest honor you can ever have, besides obviously getting out of the military without a dishonorable discharge, it's actually going to war or being involved in a war. Doesn't matter if you're on the front lines or you're in a support role. The fact that you were able to deploy in some capacity brings the full circle of the pain you have to go through in the military. It brings it full circle because all the training, all the time you're away from your family, when you get to deploy, you're like, okay, this is why, right? Because you're doing it on behalf of your country. You get to exercise those training, those skills in real world scenarios. And there's just nothing like it. Okay. It's almost equivalent to having kids. It's hard to explain it to people unless you have them, right? And it's the same thing here with deploying. So I just want to say that up front because what you're going to see on social media is a lot of reactions where some people are happy. There's people who are upset. And then you're going to find people trying to, I guess, speak on behalf of military soldiers and make it seem like they didn't want to do this. Trust me, those people flying those bombers, those people involved in the planning, they love this. Okay. Now, politically, and maybe some of their beliefs from a, political standpoint, they may not necessarily agree with, but the actual skill, the strategy, waking up in the morning and planning this out without most people knowing, by the way, which we're going to get into because nobody knew it happened today, only a select amount of people, they relish that. So I want to say that up front. Now, before we get to all the other stuff, I say thank you guys for joining me live here as we react to this huge announcement. I see your comments coming in. And where we're going to start first is on X. And obviously, let's start with something funny. Is that okay with you guys? Can we do that? Can we start with something that's going to put a smile on your face in case you happen to be one of those people who aren't taking this announcement very well? Read this really quick. Breaking. A federal judge has ordered President Trump to rebuild Iran's nuclear sites. I mean, come on. That's got to be funny, right? I mean, come on. It's okay to laugh, guys. I think the problem that you're going to see as we go through this video is people take it's too serious, okay? Life is too short. So I at least want to start off with a laugh. Okay, so let's talk about, and I had to write it down here because I want to make sure I'm thorough in this video and your guys' time here. There are multiple issues at hand, right? First off, the issue, and give me a moment here as I figure out where I wrote it. Oh yeah, there it is. Okay. So the first criticism, why don't we take care of that first? Let's look at the criticisms because we can knock that out first and then get to what's good about this. Okay. Is that all right with you guys? And if you guys have questions or anything like that, definitely put it in the comment section below. No question. We will respond to that. Now, let's go through the criticisms. Here's the main one that you're going to see from the left, and it's just fitting that this popped up on my feed. This happens to be probably the person with the most Trump derangement syndrome in this world. It's this: Mr. No New Wars just bombed Iran without congressional authority. So this brings up a talking point and a question. Did President Trump order these strikes in regards to Iran, and did he have the authority to do so? Well, guess what, ladies and gentlemen? Yes, he has the authority to do so. You know why that is? Is because since 9/11, they came up with this law in Congress that allows the president to order military strikes without congressional approval. So you will see on social media and probably mainstream news as well, where they start to try to argue the point, hey, who authorized President Trump to do this? It's the same thing with National Guard in Los Angeles. He doesn't have the authority to, come on, give us a break. Okay, he's the president of the United States. You don't think his cabinet, his Department of Justice, the people in his camp, you don't think he knows whether or not he can do it? I mean, it's a complete joke. But this is one of the main criticisms you're going to see, that he did it without congressional approval. He doesn't need congressional approval to exercise military strikes. Again, if you're just joining us right now, I'm going through the criticisms of what just happened. And then we'll get into the positive reaction to what happened. And that way, you guys get to see both sides. It's not for me to tell you how to feel. It's not for me to tell you how to think. You make up your own mind on what this means to you. I'm just going to show you what everybody is saying. I'll give you my little 2 cents, of course. But the bottom line on this first criticism, he does have the congressional approval or excuse me, he does not need congressional approval to order military strikes. And what's so funny is that you don't have to go very far to see this take place, because if you just read the comments, one of the individuals already posted this. The president has constitutional authority as commander-in-chief under Article 2, Section 2 of the U.S. Constitution that has been interpreted to allow short-term, limited military actions without congressional approval, strikes conducted in self-defense to protect U.S. interests or personnel, actions that don't rise to the level of war. And of course, that takes us to the next criticism, because that is the fact that he ordered these strikes means that Iran has no choice but to retaliate. And if they retaliate, then that means that this is going to be a full-on war. Now, the question is, if they retaliate, are they attacking U.S. armed forces, or are they just going to continue to try to attack Israel? That remains to be seen. And as you heard in the statement from the president, he's hoping that Iran just backs down right now. Now, if history has taught us anything, the chances of that happening is probably slim, because I think I said it in all of my videos. Iran is a Middle Eastern country. They don't think like America thinks. Okay, America's like logical. Yeah, if we use this amount of force, then they'll stop. The people in the Middle East don't think that way. They don't care how much force. Like, there are people who are willing to die right now if they had to. They don't care, right? I mean, that's just the reality. And I remember when I first deployed to Afghanistan, I remember they were telling us, they were saying, like, you guys have to understand the culture and the mindset of the Middle East. You have people who grow up believing that their purpose in life is to sooner or later blow up an American, or to sooner or later kill someone that they deem to be a terrorist on this planet. Like, Iran clearly wants to destroy Israel, no question, and Israel wants to destroy Iran. We know that. Middle Eastern countries, this is my point, Middle Eastern countries don't think like we do, ladies and gentlemen. So when we try to critique and we try to place what we believe to be the right thing to do on these Middle Eastern countries, it's not technically right, because one, we're not from there. Two, we don't actually understand their culture and their belief system. We're seeing it from the lens of being an American, where we are really privileged. Think about it. You can be a homeless guy in America and still be richer than most people in Africa. Just think about that for a second, right? So I think you guys are getting my point. So first criticism, obviously, was no congressional approval. We talked about that already. Second one is this is going to escalate. And that's what brings us to some of the stuff I've been seeing on the feed here. So here's one. So George, if you guys follow him on X, he says, congratulations to Benjamin Netanyahu for once again getting the United States to do exactly what he wants. Now, let's be real here. Let's follow this criticism. We knew leading up to the election that President Trump is 110% loyal to Israel. We knew that. He's the only president that did what? Moved the embassy to Jerusalem. I mean, we knew that. We knew how big of a deal the support from Israel really was because of some of the events he hosted leading up to the election. I mean, think about it for a second. So I'm not shocked that he congratulated Israel, that he said at the end of his statement, God bless Israel. I'm not shocked. I'm not shocked that he's in some capacity working with Israel in regards to this. What I find to be interesting is why people are shocked by that, right? It shouldn't be a shocker. This is probably the most pro-Israel president in history. Now, you may say that's a huge criticism for President Trump. You might even go extreme, like some people do on the platform, and say he's bought and paid for and he's just a puppet for Israel. You may go as far as to say that Israel is the one controlling America. I don't care what you believe. You believe whatever you want. I'm just telling you that nobody should be shocked that he made this move and that he is obviously supporting Israel in that regard. And so people are not going to take this very well, or there's a certain amount of people who are not going to take this very well. Now, some of the reasoning is because some people, including people within his own cabinet, according to rumors and speculation and reports, that they advise against doing this. Okay, sure. But we will get to that later here. Let me get to, here's Grok actually supporting what I had already talked about, which was congressional approval. Former President Obama authorized multiple military actions without congressional approval when it came to Libya and Syria. Yeah, there we go. Precise numbers are unclear, but reports suggest thousands of strikes with over 25,000 bombs dropped in 2016 alone across 7 countries. And the drone strikes alone, that was a whole nother thing. A lot of people have short-term memory, of course. And Biden did also authorize military action without congressional approval in the 2024 Yemen airstrikes. So if you have people in your life that tell you, hey, he didn't have authority, there you go. Tell them they can watch this part or go look it up. Okay, so let's get back to this is going to escalate, right? Yeah, so this is what I have to say about that. And history has shown us that this will escalate. And so if it escalates, ladies and gentlemen, you know what that means? That means Congress will finally have to get involved. And they can say, hey, we don't approve of going to war. Why am I bringing this up? Why are we starting with the criticisms? Because that's what you're going to hear over the next 24 to 48 hours. You're going to only hear negative feedback because that's the world we live in. Everything's a negative, right? And it's because it's President Trump. That's what's going to dominate the airwaves, okay? So let's follow their logic. They say Iran's going to retaliate. And quite frankly, just being upfront here, I believe they probably will. And if they don't, great. I would be happy to be wrong. But according to history, they probably will. Okay. So let's say they do that. Let's say they attack U.S. armed forces. Okay. Again, at that point, then Congress will have to step in. So even if you are the person who says, hey, I disagree with what President Trump is doing because this will escalate, you do understand Congress is not on board. They're not. I mean, Democrats especially, they're definitely not on board. Now, I don't know on top of my head how many votes would be required to declare war or to deny it, but I know for a fact most Democrats will not support it, and half of the Republicans will. Now, I could also be wrong because we understand that Israel has a level of influence than any other lobby group or elite or donor out there, right? When it comes to people in Congress, right? There's just something about Israel where they just have a certain level of support that, you know, is crazy. Whether that is for a good or a bad reason, not for me to say. But bottom line here is if it does escalate, before we all panic, for the people who are obviously having a problem with this, and again, if you're just joining me live, I'm going over the criticism, so I don't want you to be confused here. Bottom line is that Congress will have to step in, and if they say, no, we don't approve of going to war, then we won't. There you go. Problem solved. And I was already saying this for the record about a week ago, leading up to this, that, and you kind of already know this if you started the military, and I think most people who haven't, they're kind of unaware, that there's already U.S. armed forces in the region that are already conducting military operations against enemies. Okay? That's already happening. Before the bombing of Iran that took place today in their nuclear sites, before all that, they were already conducting military operations in so many different countries. And the reason why I have to say this is because a lot of people think, yeah, you know, military soldiers, they had to deploy over there to do all this. Not necessarily. Not most of them, okay? Now, the people clearly who are flying the bombers, yeah, that makes sense. But the point that I'm trying to make here, guys, is that it's not a stretch to see military actions that are being executed without congressional approval. That is not, a random thing. That's a normal way of doing business. And again, if they retaliate and it rises to the level of them attacking our armed forces, then guess what? Congress will have to step in. And that's called a republic, ladies and gentlemen. But remember, Democrats will cry and say, oh, he's exceeding his authority. And, this is, he's declaring war. He hasn't declared war. He has not said that. So don't put words in the president's mouth, right? And it's very important to be fair in the reporting. Okay, don't say things that are not true. He has not declared war. He did not exceed his authority. He does not need congressional approval to order military airstrikes. He's not the only president to do it. I already went over that. And if this escalates, then Congress will get involved. And that's how a healthy republic operates. Okay? Now, before I go any further, let me check in on my super chats and see how you guys feel about this. Okay. Excuse me. Let me go here. There you go. All right. Proud of my American cousins. This is from Calamantry. Thank you for your super chat. Let's see here. Let's see if we have any questions. From Fire Dragon 57, thank you, Devori, for your fair coverage of all your streaming content, and thank you for your service. Keep up the great work. Here we go. Kathy says, I'm watching your face. You seem disturbed. No, I'm not disturbed at all. Call me Curtis. It's time for the Iranian people. Sorry if you guys didn't see this. It's time for the Iranian people to finally stand up against mullahs. Women can finally be free in Iran without the persecution of their psychotic religious leaders. Yeah, no, I agree. Yeah, I agree. Excuse me. Grandpa Barney, thank you for your super chat. Thank you, my brother, for all your work and honest news. I cheer you with a cup of coffee mug. God bless you and your family. Love our president. Thank you very much for that. Appreciate it. Okay, so Trump said no wars, and he just started one. Again, that's misleading. So let me ask you a question. Let's put this on the screen. And you guys can put this in the comment section. Do you guys believe that President Trump has started a war? Let's exercise our intellect here, okay? Let's exercise emotional maturity. Do you guys believe President Trump started a war with this decision? My answer is no. Because at the end of the day, what is the difference between these military airstrikes and the one last year when it came to Joe Biden and Yemen? Did he declare war on Yemen? Did Obama declare war on Syria? Right? That's what I'm saying. We have to be fair. Okay? And what happens, guys, if you guys don't notice, is that on the conservative side, there's a diversity of thought. And I would say most conservatives are very principled. So when something happens that they don't agree with, as far as their principles are concerned, they're at risk of having a certain level of derangement. This is being very fair, guys. Okay. All right. Now, what I mean by that, what I mean by that is they're so upset by what happened that they start getting a little too emotional and start saying things that are not technically true. So it's okay to criticize the president, please. I'm not saying nobody shouldn't. What I'm saying is don't criticize him because you're emotionally out of control. Criticize him from a place of intellect. That's what Democrats fail to do. Don't be a Democrat, right? So that because that's what I've been seeing on social media. Let me see here. Let's go to more super chats here. One more. Okay. Let me get to some comments and then we'll get back to a couple more criticism and see what your answers are. Here we go. Did you just say you can be homeless in America and still be richer than most people in Africa, bro? I thought you were better than that. The statement was so beneath you. You take it back. Okay. Tell me you've never been outside the country without telling me you haven't been outside the country. That's fine. All right. One more and then we'll move on here. Let's see here. Okay, here's one. This is being honest. I like it. I don't know if I support this, to be honest. It's not ideal. But if this is the only thing we do when it comes to Iran and our boys don't get deployed, then I can say I support this. That's a fair comment. That's a fair comment. Listen, I know there are people who 110% support this, and then I know there are people who do not support this at all. Okay. And yeah, here we go. Here's one right here. This is BS. If you need more proof that Israel controls our government, here it is. That's why I said, there's a certain level of derangement that I don't subscribe to. So before we go any further, let me just address this. So, and if you guys want to unsubscribe and don't follow me, that's fine. So clearly there are people that are considered to be conservatives that hate Israel at this point. Okay. And I'm not upset that they hate Israel. That's fine. I don't have a problem with that. And I do not believe Israel is a perfect country. I believe they are just as flawed, if not more flawed than America, given what's happening with Gaza and all that other stuff. Okay. My point is this. Okay. So can two things be true at the same time? Can Israel take out Iran's nuclear facility or ask America to do it on their behalf? And at the same time, can Israel also do things that we disagree with? I'm sure the answer would be yes. I don't see a problem with that. What do you guys, if you're not understanding what I'm saying is, we seem to have this problem that I continue to see on social media, that it's got to be one way or the other. There are two things can't be true at the same time. Like Israel cannot do things that are wrong, which they do things that are wrong. And at the same time, I can also say that I support Israel, right? It's like you can't do both of that, right? You have to be one or the other. And the problem with that is it creates a very tribal environment that isn't conducive to getting anything done intellectually, okay? So I hope people understand what I'm saying here is that if you are the person who's like, Israel controls our government, President Trump is a puppet, here we go again, they're doing the bidding of Israel. If that's what you believe, that's not for me to disagree with you, man. I don't care. That's your belief. What I'm saying is don't make the mistake of becoming a Democrat and becoming so deranged with that thinking that if something that President Trump does that is actually pragmatic and correct, and it actually is in relation to Israel, that you just dismiss it entirely. And when that happens, it's because we're not exercising discernment. Okay? Two things can be true at the same time. That Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. They cannot be close to having a nuclear weapon. They should not even have materials to build a nuclear weapon. It doesn't make any sense for them to have it. And we know if they have it, we know what their government would want to do with it. So if we have a chance to take those out, why would you not do it? Well, that's why we're talking about criticism, because the criticism is, well, Deborah, if we do it, then that means we would get caught up in a forever war. Okay, given the history of what we learned, is it possible that would happen given the climate in Congress? I would say no. I think it's the people serving in Congress, their mindset around going to war, believe it or not, is different than it was back when George Bush was our president after 9/11. Totally different. Totally different. Most Americans would not support it. There's no way. So it would have to be something catastrophic to get Americans to change their mind, including politicians. So it's not the same thing. And you're going to have people, because their derangement is so high, they're going to try to say that bombing Iran and these nuclear facilities is the same as going into Iraq. That's an ignorant statement. No question. No question. Because President Trump authorized military strikes. President Trump did not deploy military soldiers to put boots on ground inside of Iran. He did not send soldiers in there to capture the government and, imprison people and interrogate and assassinate. Like, none of that is happening. It's not what happened. Okay. I think you guys are getting my point. All right. So, obviously we want to make sure that it was a success, because with this level of risk, it has to be success. Right. Yeah, that's it, just has to be. Okay, so let's get to the other criticism. Let me go back here. Let's go back to X. Okay. And let's go here. So we already talked about this. See, here's a Democrat already saying Trump struck Iran without any authorization in Congress. He doesn't need it. We need to immediately return to D.C. and vote on Representative Massey and my war powers resolution to prevent America from being dragged into another endless Middle East war. See, if you guys don't react to every news that comes out, it gives you enough time to actually observe the talking points that start to develop. And over the past, I would say 3 days, I've been noticing that. I've been like, let me just continue to just watch what people are saying. And what I've been noticing is that you have like this uniparty in Congress where you have both Republican and Democrat who will say the same thing because there's a particular narrative that they're trying to drive home. And the narrative right here is that, and Thomas Massey believes this too, he doesn't like that President Trump is so aggressive as a president. He wants to flex Congress's muscles, right? He wants the president to understand that, no, Congress needs to say yes or no. The problem is it's not rooted in an actual strong foundation. Congress doesn't have any say when it comes to military action. That's the funny thing about it. So Ro Khanna, again, wrong, no question. Let's see here. Let's go to another one. I told you guys, you're going to see a lot of this. You know who's not anti-war is someone who starts a war, F Trump. And here's the interesting thing about war, okay? So there seems to be this mindset where people think if we don't do anything, the war won't happen. It's like they live in this black and white world. Human beings are flawed and complicated. In the history of our existence, there's always been war. Just a matter of time. I said it a week ago. If this didn't happen now, it would happen later. Iran would eventually attack Israel. Israel will eventually attack Iran. You saw with Iran and its proxies attacking Israel on October 7th. It was only a matter of time. It's going to continue to happen. Think about this. There are countries out there, okay? And I'm not familiar with this particular country. I only know it because a good friend of mine, and happens to be a great friend of my wife, he's from Romania. And if he's watching, hopefully I don't butcher this. But he was telling me how the country's been at war for generations, like many, many years. Like there are countries out there that are at war that the mainstream media doesn't even talk about. See, Americans, we're so stuck in this bubble and we think things are just like a certain way. That's why you have to get out there and actually see. I've been outside the country. So hearing this and seeing this take place, I'm not surprised. And for the record, I still don't believe this is an act of war. Now, again, if they attack our armed forces, Congress will step in and then we'll decide that. But to put out a statement like this, that's just derangement. You're emotionally reacting because you have a principle of anti-war. And if any military action happens, it triggers that principle. And you go into this narrative of saying, hey, that means that President Trump is not anti-war. Being anti-war does not mean you're never going to take a military action. Can we please exercise intelligence here? I mean, guys, it's like, hey, I'm a lover, not a fighter. But if the bully keeps punching me and stealing my lunches, maybe one day I need to clock him in his jaw. I mean, I don't know. But does that mean I'm a fighter? Does that mean I'm looking for a fight? Right? I mean, I have to make a silly example, but it's true. I mean, he did give the country 60 days. He did try to work out an agreement. Didn't work. So I don't know why we're shocked. But again, this is what people are going to say. And again, here it is. Here we go. I'm MAGA, done with him. F Trump. He's the liar. They all said he was. Okay. All right. He said it for 20 years that Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. So not too sure why we are shocked by that. All right. Let's see here. Let's listen to this clip because I believe this is worthy of our attention. And it definitely describes and I think rebukes a criticism that you're going to also hear, which is that President Trump is flying off the handle. He doesn't know what he's doing. He's out of control. This is why we shouldn't give him the nuclear codes, right? That's what you're going to continue to hear. And so this particular clip rebukes that because it's talking about what actually led up to this and how strategic this really was, and that most people were unaware. So let me make sure you guys can hear this. Let's see here.
So my phone has been literally ringing off the hook. But what I would say is that it's notable how much deception was involved in this operation. All eyes were looking west towards Guam and the B-2s that took off late last night towards Guam. It's possible that, but if the distance there would suggest that the B-2s may have also flown east from Whiteman Air Force Base in Missouri. Remember, the air refuelers, many of them were placed in Europe and across the Middle East. And that is what is known as an air refueling bridge. And all of those B-2s would require much air refueling in order to make it they usually fly round trip from Whiteman. And so what we can say, and the president said this in his Truth Social post, is that a full payload of bombs, those massive ordnance penetrators, the 30,000-pound bunker buster bombs, were dropped at Fordo. And as we have reported, there are 2 entrances to Fordo. So at least 2 bombs at each 2 entrances, which suggests at least 2 B-2s were involved over Fordo. My suspicion is that there were more. And then you have the 2 other sites, Natanz, which is also has an underground enrichment facility. The Israelis had not been able to reach or take out that facility despite the last 10 days of bombing. And so now U.S. warplanes, likely another B-2 bomber, had dropped that MOP, the 30,000-pound bunker buster, on Natanz. And then you also have Isfahan, a 3rd site south of Tehran. And that is also a very significant enrichment facility. So those B-2 bombers, it's possible that as everybody was looking west for the B-2s flying towards Guam, that in fact there was another package of squadron of B-2s that were flying east.
All right. So what is the jits? The jits is clearly there was misdirection that went on and everyone ate it up. Okay. Like everyone and their mom except Steve Bannon and people who obviously had firsthand knowledge, and maybe some people who were really tracking this, knew that this whole story about B-2 bombers heading to Guam was a joke. Okay. And it worked. So why do I show you that clip and why do I bring that up? Because it rebukes the narrative that President Trump doesn't know what he's doing and he's just erratic. Okay. That's not what's happening here. They clearly thought this through. Think about this. And here's my ultimate point and why what I'm saying is true. So think about how many leaks have happened under Pete Hegseth in the whole Signal Gate. Okay? Think about that. I want you to hold that in your mind. I want you to compare that to this operation. 0 leaks whatsoever. 0. Nobody knew when it was going to happen. And when I say nobody, I'm talking about generally mainstream media and most people who are online. Okay? So I don't want to hear that they didn't know what they're doing. And, again, when you disagree with someone, that doesn't make them stupid, okay? There's just a difference of opinion, okay? There are people out there that may have the opinion that the way to handle Iran is just not to do anything. They're entitled to believe that. That's fine. Then there are people who believe, hey, if we have the opportunity to erase those nuclear enrichment sites and we can actually do it without putting boots on ground, pull the trigger. And the fact of the matter is, and especially if you look at the facts, there's no reason for Iran to have the amount of uranium that they had. There's no question. Okay. Now, you may debate, what do we do about it? That's fine. But the principle of them having it, that's a whole nother thing. Okay. So, obviously, those were the big ones. And I think there was another one. Who knew? Who knew about this operation? Did Tulsi Gabbard know? I think we're going to find that out in the coming days. Who actually was included? I think that will be uncovered in the coming days as well. But the fact of the matter is, this was carefully planned. And if I just recap quickly the criticisms, once again, which is President Trump he did something without congressional approval. That's false. He does not need congressional approval to do military airstrikes. Biden, Obama, Bush, they all did it. And again, if you disagree with that, then call your congressman or congresswoman and demand they change the law. I just had a video about this whole ICE situation in Los Angeles. If you guys are so upset at what ICE is doing, and you truly feel convicted in your beliefs that they're, ripping families apart, why are you not rioting on Capitol Hill and getting Democrats or your congressional leaders to change the law? So my point that I'm trying to make here is that we can't have it both ways, conservatives. We can't be about rule of law, and then when the president follows the law, we're upset. I mean, come on, I'd understand if he broke the law and it needed, approval from Congress. Yeah, we should be highly upset. But this is why he was elected, to be a strong leader, to make hard decisions. And let me remind this before I get to the great stuff here. A lot of people have opinions about what President Trump should do. But can I remind you that unless you are the president and you've been in that position, your opinion is meaningless. Meaning, it's easy to tell someone, hey, you should be doing this. But wait till you become the guy in charge. Then you'll understand. It's like all the parents out there. You're telling your kids, hey, you got to do this, you got to do this. Kids think you're stupid. They think you're a tyrant for doing that. Then when they get older, they're like, damn, man, my parents, man, they were right. So, because they finally see exactly from that point of view. It's called the burden of leadership, just to keep it short, okay? Burden of leadership means you're going to make decisions that pisses people off who support you. This might be a decision that President Trump made that upsets some people in his base. I don't think most of them, but some people in the base will be upset. And these are more than likely people who are already critical of President Trump, for the most part. So, again, don't let the noise on social media paint this picture that we're going to have World War III. Don't let social media, mainstream news paint this picture like President Trump is flying off the handle and he's doing things without congressional approval, because it's just not the truth. And the problem right now that we have in the media is that we say stuff that is not factually true. And it causes misleading statements to take place for people who don't do their research, and they eat it up. That's exactly what's happening on the left right now. We just shouldn't make that mistake when it comes to conservatives. Just because you see it on social media doesn't make it true. Even if I say it, doesn't make it true. Okay? All right, let's get to super chats, and then we'll get to some other statements that I'm seeing here right now on X that we're going to want to take a look at. Let's see here. Let's see what you guys have to say. Let's read this one from, I believe it's Simon. He says, President Trump is a puppet, LOL. John Taffer literally just released a book about the Biden puppet regime. Iran is a radical theocracy who believes in the annihilation of the USA. People need to dig deep and seek the truth. Yeah, I don't believe you're wrong in that. There is a reality of their culture. We have to just understand Middle East in general is not fond of America. I mean, I hope people understand that. Okay, let's go here. Here's a good one. Thank you, Jason Welch. You found a better way to make my point. Quote, I said I wouldn't spank my kids, but doesn't mean I can't if needed. Do I want to? No. Should I? Maybe. Will I? Depends if I feel it's needed, not if some other parent says so. Exactly. It's part of the analogy I was trying to make, guys. Let's see here. What else we got? Okay, here's a good one. Let's talk about this. You don't think America is targeted by these groups because we choose to affiliate ourselves with Israel? Like, is it America first or Israel then us? Okay. Listen. There is the thoughts we have in our head about what we want to be true, and then there is reality. Okay? Reality is, in 2028, President Trump will be leaving office. As of right now, it would seem that J.D. Vance will take over. And by the way, J.D. Vance is a true conservative. President Trump is not a conservative. I hope everybody understands that. Do I need to say that again? President Trump is not a true conservative, ladies and gentlemen. J.D. Vance is. So, again, if you're upset, you don't like this, should you be shocked and surprised? No. No, you shouldn't be. But the idea that America wouldn't be targeted because we align ourselves with Israel, I think is also a misnomer. Why? Because it's the United States of America. We are the envy of the world. Someone will always have a problem with us. Out of all of the stuff we've done over the past, at least as far as I'm alive, over the past 30-something years, that's more than enough for people to have problems with us, even if it wasn't Iran. It would be somebody else. So what are we talking about exactly? And here's the other thing. Again, President Trump is only going to be in office for 3.5 years, and then there'll be another president. And then there'll be another president. And the reason why I'm making this point, because I'm also continuing to observe this mistake as well intellectually, which is that people speak as if President Trump will be the president for the next 100 years. Like, you guys need to pipe down, okay? There's a good chance Democrats might become in power again, okay? And then everything we're doing now will go back the other way. Or J.D. Vance gets into office and it's different because he's a true conservative. He's not Donald Trump, okay? So I think we need to pump the brakes and being so extreme in this whole Armageddon language. Okay. I just don't think it's conducive to debating, I guess is what I'm trying to say. One more. Here's a good one. Angela Beers. Nobody wants war, including Trump. However, it needed to be done. We have to show Iran we are still not going to allow them to have a nuclear weapon. Pray for our president. Okay. Now, I know there are people watching. They're saying, Dvory, you sound like you're just really defending the president here. Guys, I don't need to defend the president. The president has the authority to order military airstrikes. I don't need to defend why he's doing that. Quite frankly, the president doesn't really need to explain himself, honestly. I mean, if we're going to take it all the way there, the president doesn't owe the American people technically an explanation on why he executed certain military airstrikes. Now, if he wants to go to war, yeah, he would owe us an explanation, no question. But given the amount of online chatter, it makes sense why he did the address tonight. It makes sense. But he doesn't really owe, by law, an explanation. And so I'm not defending the president. I'm just telling you what the reality is. The reality is he didn't need congressional approval. The reality is Iran, according to reports, if you believe them, the intelligence community, I don't know if it's the same intelligence people who said Hunter, excuse me, guys. Hi. Okay, thank you. I love you too. I was saying that he doesn't need congressional approval. Okay. Iran is closer than they've ever been to a nuclear weapon, according to reports, right? Because they've been close to a nuclear weapon for the past, 30 years, right? They've always been weeks away. And that deserves criticism. Hey, guys, how many times are you going to tell us that Iran is close to a nuclear weapon? What's up? Did they have one or not? I get it. But if the intelligence community said that, yeah, they have all of the materials needed and they're weeks away, then I understand the choice that President Trump made. You may not agree with it, but at least you understand why. And you could play this game in your mind. Well, I don't really believe what they say because we weren't able to see it. Okay, well, at that point, then there's no purpose of talking about this, right? Okay. Let's see here. Let me read some regular comments and then we'll go. Okay, you sound stupid okay, thank you. Well, you're watching, so why would you watch someone who's stupid? That's a great question. Here we go. I have always believed that USA has always been at war with Iran, just not bombing and shooting, etc. Yeah, I mean, it's a good point to make. I don't know, but I've always said that we were always involved, just to what degree? Right? To what degree? Right? Here we go. Thank you. Somebody made my point for me. There were zero explanations from Biden for the last 4 years, so why does Trump need to explain himself? Yeah, you should ask that to conservatives online. Some of them are not happy. Let's see here. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, President Trump is doing what he thinks best, and that doesn't always mean we will agree. If you guys are wondering, why am I sounding this way, right? Because we started off, if you're just joining us, with criticisms. Okay, so you'll hear the criticisms, and I just want you to hear an intellectual response to that, okay? You can disagree with the president's decision. That doesn't mean you need to have Trump derangement syndrome about it and say F Trump, because that's what you're going to see. You can disagree with the president. That doesn't mean, oh, well, I'm done with him. Oh, so that means you only support him based on certain conditions. He has to do everything you want him to do, and then you will support him. Got it. You guys get what I'm saying here? Okay? Like, there's going to be things we disagree with, okay? All right. Now let's go to the positive side. Okay? What is the positive side about this? What is the positive side? Well, the positive side is that if it is true that Iran was close to having a nuclear weapon, whether that was weeks or months away, that's been neutralized. This also may lead to the Iranian people standing up to their government and overthrowing them. Maybe. This might lead to the amount of leverage that's needed to subdue the Iranian government right now. It might lead to them taking a step back and coming up with an agreement. These are all options or scenarios. Doesn't mean they're going to happen. I think we're all straight on that. And quite frankly, again, if you are close to having a nuclear weapon, and we believe that that is true, then this was a positive move. Now, again, and if you guys are wondering why I'm approaching this from different angles, is because I'm not a guy that believes, I'm not a guy that trusts what the federal government says, right? Like, I don't really trust most of the things that the Trump administration says. I don't believe what Netanyahu says. And I definitely don't believe what mainstream media or Iran is saying. And so what I do is I look at the facts that are available, and I come up with my conclusions from there. But the federal government has been known to lie. Don't be naive, ladies and gentlemen. There's a scenario out there where this is all a lie. They're not close to a nuclear weapon whatsoever. But because Israel wants this to happen, and they have leverage in regards to President Trump and Congress and America, they got them to do this on their behalf. That is a alternate reality out there, okay? In the end, we'll really never know because we're not in these rooms. But I will say this. How does this impact me and you? It really doesn't at this moment. So should you lose sleep? No, you shouldn't. Is there a silver lining to this? Yes. If it is true, confirmed to be true, that the amount of uranium that existed and it was destroyed, that's great. This is good news. And again, for the Armageddon folks, if Iran does retaliate, it's also great news that Congress gets to step in at that point and use their authority. And they can say, nope, we're not getting involved. Okay? So I think those are great things about what took place. And again, that's based on if the information is true. There's no way to know. It's not like, they sent a Navy SEAL into one of these bunkers and took photos and then released it to the public. I mean, that doesn't exist, right? It's based on intelligence. And intelligence can be wrong, just like weapons of mass destruction was wrong, right? So that's what I want to say about that. Okay. Some people are calling for President Trump to be impeached. I think that's a joke. I think that's a joke because he didn't violate anything. Now, not all Democrats disagree with President Trump, as you guys know. Not all Democrats. There's only really one that is going to support President Trump on this, and it's Senator John Fetterman, because we know he loves Israel, no question about it. And that's why he put up this statement. As I have long maintained, this was the correct move by President Trump. Iran is the world's leading sponsor of terrorism and cannot have a nuclear capabilities. I'm grateful for and salute the finest military in the world. And that is the narrative that you'll see from the right. Hey, thank our troops. You know, Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. Both are true. No problem with that. And I think that this is the other thing I have to point out. So I want you guys to think about the information you have access to today versus when President Obama was in office. Think about YouTube today versus when President Obama was in office. So the reason why it's gotten so noisy on social media and why everybody has a freaking opinion and why it's so hard to know what the truth is because it's the internet. And the reason why this seems to be such a big story is because everybody pays attention to everything now. Versus when it was Obama, the technology wasn't there for us to access minute-to-minute information about everything. Right? At that point in time, mainstream media still had the monopoly on information. Well, no longer is that the reality. So that's a great thing that it's decentralized. The bad thing is that it's easy to think that something is like, you know, an Armageddon level big deal than what it might actually be. You know, this military airstrike might not actually be as big as the deal as people make it out to be. May not be. Because what is one thing we've learned from this administration? That every time we come to some event and everybody's like, oh my God, this is huge, right? This is a big deal. What happens a week later? Almost becomes an afterthought. So many things have happened in this administration that we have forgotten more things that have actually happened. I mean, that we can remember, if that makes sense. Like, it's just moving so fast that you get caught up in this particular story thinking that this is a big deal, and before you know it, you're on to the next one. So keep that in mind as we go through this. So anyways, no question that Fetterman supports what the president is doing here. And I'm not really getting into the particulars as far as like what bombs they used. And if you guys want to find that out, you can go on mainstream media and look at all that. Because honestly, what difference does it make? The only thing that actually matters is if the intelligence is true. Was the mission successful? According to President Trump, it was. But again, we know the government lies. And how do they know it's successful? We also don't know that because we're not in the room. What is success? What does success look like when taking out these nuclear facilities? We know they were deep into the ground. And some people believe that even with our B-2 bombers, they still wouldn't be able to really damage them or damage them in a significant way. That remains to be obviously disclosed to the public. We'll see. But according to the president's statement tonight, it was a success. So we have to take his word for it, is what I'm saying, because they have not provided any pictures or supporting documentation or videos to prove otherwise. All right, here's another one. Someone that might, if we want to be divisive for 30 seconds, someone that should be deported, Congresswoman Omar, who claims that, quote, these strikes on Iran ordered by President Trump and executed without congressional authorization, like I said, is not needed, mark a dangerous and reckless escalation of an already, I'm not even gonna, yeah, we already know where she's going. Okay. What did I tell you? Didn't I tell you if you observe what people say, you see they start saying the same thing. Congress must vote immediately on Representative Thomas Massey and Senator Tim Kaine's War Powers Resolution. Didn't we just see that from Ro Khanna? Right? So you're starting to see the angles. And I think that's the one thing I want to leave with you guys tonight. More than anything else. It's not for me to tell you what to think. It's not for me to tell you that you should believe that President Trump is right or you should believe that President Trump is wrong. You guys want to do that? Go listen to somebody else who's into those type of talking points. My job is to get you to think for yourself. The first part of thinking is observing. Just pay attention to what everybody is saying first. Start seeing how they start saying the same thing, right? And you start seeing that it goes across party lines. You'll have some Republicans and Democrats say, hey, President Trump did this without congressional approval. We need to pass this particular. Yeah, you know what? What's in this War Powers Resolution? Is it other stuff that has nothing to do with it? Because we know Congress has a bad habit of doing that too. So maybe that's why they're pushing this so hard. They're going to try to throw something in there. I'm telling you. If only we lived in a world where before Congress could pass a bill or a piece of legislation, that they had to make it public first. Okay? And they had to make it public like 3 weeks before. It gives everybody enough time to read every single line. Not this 48 hours crap. And it's like 1,000 pages. What a joke. Okay. All right. Let's see here. A lot of Top Gun Maverick stuff that was said. I thought that was funny. Okay. All this you guys can go read on your own. I'm not going to keep boring you guys with this stuff. Okay. But let's read the president's statement that he did put up, and then we'll get to some of your guys' super chats after that. So here's his latest one 30 minutes ago. Any retaliation by Iran against the United States of America will be met with force far greater, let me make sure you guys can read this, than what was witnessed tonight. Thank you. Donald J. Trump, President of the United States. Okay. All right. And then the statement, he did confirm this earlier in case you guys did not see it. He said that, hey, we completed a successful attack. He named the locations. Full payload of bombs was dropped on the primary site. And all planes are safely on their way home. Okay, so he said that during his statement. I just want to make sure there wasn't anything we left out. And I already played you guys a clip of the misdirection that took place where they said that, they had B-2 bombers going to Guam when that wasn't even really the case. Well, there were B-2 bombers that were going to Guam, but they had another squadron that actually went to Iran. Okay. So again, as far as execution goes, they get an A+ for that. All right, let's get to some more super chats and see what you guys have to say about this. Congresswoman Omar hasn't found a terrorist regime she doesn't like. It's not a bad statement there. Here's one. When can you expect to see you at White House press briefings? Good work. Hope other left-leaning outlets will learn and follow your example. All right. So I told you guys that, I don't believe everything the government says. And the White House press briefing is a great example of reality. So they put out this application talking about, we're going to be transparent and we're not going to censor, media outlets, and we're going to be an open book and we want everybody to come. Guys, they're just as shady, in my opinion, as the last administration in regards to this. Why do I say that? Because it's a who you know business. The only people that you see that show up at these White House press briefings in the media seat is because they know these people. I'm giving you guys the brutal, honest truth here. Okay? That's just the straight up truth. Now, that doesn't mean I don't like them or I think they're, evil or something. I'm just saying that, reality is the only people you see there is it's a who you know. There are people that I expect should have already been there and they haven't even been there. It's a who you know. And if someone in that administration has a problem with you, and this isn't my situation, well, I guess if they go back and watch what I just said, maybe they'll have a problem with me. But there are people in that administration that has a problem with certain, whether it's influencers or journalists, you'll never see them in the White House press briefing. It's human beings. It's emotions. Okay? So that's why you haven't seen it. Maybe it will happen. Maybe it won't. I'm not betting my life on it. I would love to ask a question. It'd be great. But as long as I'm able to do what I'm doing every day for you guys, I'm more than happy. Okay? All right. Yeah, let's go to our other super chat here. Let's see here. I'm trying to catch up to everything you guys are saying. All right, here's from Bonnet. It says, I'm confident in President Trump's ability to lead. The fact that it took days for him to make this decision speaks volumes. Even if war does happen, I believe that all other options would have been exhausted. I mean, here's the thing. So under Kamala Harris, what do you guys think would have happened? I'm curious about that. I really want to know. I really want to know from you guys. Put it in the comments section. If Kamala Harris was the president, what do you think would be different in the Middle East? We know we already have reports that say, and this is on video, and I'll have to put it in my video tomorrow, that, and this came out, I think it was a week ago, and it was CNN. They were interviewing an individual who was captured by Hamas. Okay? He was in captivity. And he said as soon as they learned that President Trump was elected and he would be assuming office, they started treating the hostages different. Meaning they started to take care of them a little bit better because they knew if they didn't do that, all hell would, I guess, break out for them, right? So my question for you guys is, given what happened with Iran and Israel and Hamas and Ukraine and Russia, what do you think would be different if Kamala Harris was the president? Let's see what you guys have to say about that. I'm curious. What do you guys think would be different? All right? I mean, whatever you think is bad now, I assume it would just be worse. Because look at what happened under Biden. They were happy to fund this Ukraine scam machine. I mean, there are people who say that half the money didn't even go to the war, went to people's pockets. So we don't know. It's a hypothetical. I understand that. Okay. But the point that I'm trying to make is what's the end game here in regards to, I guess, for people who don't like this? What choice did President Trump really have? I'm curious to know. Do nothing? Okay. And if he does nothing and they get to 80% of uranium, then what? Right? Super chat from Mama C29. The Middle East would run over Kamala. She can't make decisive snap decisions, and someone else would be taking over decision-making responsibility. There you go. Someone else. So I am of the belief that, if you're going to make a decision, this is what they used to teach us in the military. I don't care what you do. Just make a decision. Even if it's the wrong decision. If you're going to lead, you have to make decisions. You cannot hesitate. Hesitation obviously gets people killed or sets up the mission to fail. Okay. And really, that's a life lesson. Most of our failures come because we just lack decision making. We don't make the decisions when we truly need to make them. We procrastinate. I'm guilty at everybody's guilty at that. So, you know, my point here is that I'd rather you make a decision and you better believe in that decision, even if it's wrong. Okay. Now, speaking about Biden, I don't believe he made those decisions. Somebody else did. Because Biden is not a progressive. Some progressive hack in the White House was making those decisions. Pay attention. All right, let's go to the next one. Okay, I disagree on the White House media thing. 2 months ago, they had Jordan Berman on, who is pretty small and unknown and tries to be unbiased as possible. I was surprised they're different than last White House. Hey, you're entitled to your opinion. I disagree. I've seen a lot of people who applied. I know a lot of people who have applied. I have people who have connections there. The bottom line is you have to know someone who knows someone. So chances are Jordan is not a person that didn't know anybody and they just looked on an application and called them up. Jordan is a person who knew somebody that knew somebody. I guarantee it. Guarantee it. You gotta understand, they received probably over 10,000 applications. It's human beings. It's the way it works. Let's see here. Here we go. This is why they're trying to get that bill passed. Bet my life they'll try to put a clause in the bill to remove Trump's power to mobilize the National Guard so they can have more immigrants for midterm elections. Yeah, that might be possible. That might be possible. And that reminds me, if you guys have not seen the video I just released earlier today, I think it's worth a watch because I do a conservative effort to take four different videos that shows you ICE officials detaining someone. There was a 19-year-old from Colorado who was a college student out of Utah. There was a U.S. citizen who was detained. There was, I'm trying to remember, someone who was working, who was undocumented or illegal, detained. And then there was a guy that was coming out of the courthouse. And we go through the actual law. Okay. I think it's worth the watch. A couple more chats and then we're going to get to some other clips. I just want to make sure I get to see what you guys have to say about this. Let's see here. Here we go. This ain't our war. They've been fighting over there my whole life. I agree. I agree. My question is this. Let's say we adopt your approach, which I agree with, by the way. It's not our war. And we don't do the military airstrikes. And we don't do anything. We just turn a blind eye. Now, based on history, what do you think will end up happening? Right? Yeah, let's use history as an example. Okay, let's go. Let's see here. Couple more comments and then we'll move on. All right, here's one opinion. Iran threatened to destroy America for decades. Iran just said that they would not stop their enrichment program. That's why POTUS made this decision. Good point. Okay. Let's see here. Thank you, Tim and Cindy. Appreciate you guys watching from East Texas. Thank you. All right, let's see here. One more, and then we'll move on. Jordan, how do you feel about today's news in terms of the U.S. strikes on the sites? Okay. Yeah, I think you guys are ready for my opinion, right? So I would probably say that overall, if the intelligence is correct, then I'm happy that the president did this. Because the people in the Middle East do not think like Americans. We have to understand that. There are people who are raised with one mission and one mission only: to destroy Jews off the face of the earth and to eradicate Western civilization. There are people who are born, they eat that, they breathe it, they read it, they chant it, they do it. I don't think Americans truly appreciate that there are people who live their lives that way. I think we're so caught in our bubble over here of convenience. It's hard to, I guess, see that point of view. But just like America exists, there's a polar opposite to America, ladies and gentlemen. Where people think diplomacy, there are people who think the polar opposite to that, military action. So my point is, given the way that Middle Eastern culture is and how they see America, you guys have to understand. Here's the perfect analogy. Please pay attention to this. So how many of you guys are not from California? I assume a lot of you guys, okay? Now, how many of you guys have this certain perception of people from California? How many of you guys think people from California are entitled? How many of you guys think people from California are obnoxious, they're arrogant, they think they're better than people? Be honest with me. Really, be honest. Now, some of you guys might be watching and you are from California. Okay? But the reason why I'm asking you guys that question is if you were that person who's never lived in California, not from California, and you don't really like California people because of that stigma. Now imagine what people from the Middle East think about America. It's that times 10. Okay? You have people who grow up in wars. They look at us as, spoiled little brats who complain about first world problems. Why am I saying all this and why is it relevant? I'm saying it and it's relevant because when the question is, well, how do I feel about these strikes? I'm looking at it from both lenses. From an American lens, where I have the convenience to bitch about what the government is doing and that I don't want our country to get dragged into another war. I don't like the idea of military airstrikes. That's clear, especially when it involves having to collaborate with another country. Why can't that country do it? I definitely agree with that. Given all the money we sent Israel, you're telling me they don't have the capability to take out those nuclear sites? Now, can't have it both ways. If we are the only ones that can do that, I'm happy about that too, because that means our military is still at the top of the food chain. So, a lot of discernment here. But my point is that from that point of view, from an American lens, an American citizen lens, yeah, I mean, no one likes this because no one wants the idea of another war. I understand that. However, from the lens of the Middle East, which I've been to, this was absolutely necessary, no question. Because from the Middle East perspective, they will love nothing but to destroy Western civilization. Okay? History has taught us that. No question. America is not a country that people, and they're not a monolith, okay? I understand that. But there are countries, particularly Iran, okay? America, we don't like them. We want them gone. All right? So overall, I believe this is all part of God's plan. Some of you guys don't like that I say that, but that's what I believe. I believe that that from an American point of view, it's easy for us to criticize. It's easiest for us to have the sensitivity to military airstrikes escalating to another war because of Iraq and Afghanistan. I agree with that because I went to Afghanistan, and I would not like to see that again. But I am not convinced that this is that. Okay. And I'm showing you guys that perspective because if you take that perspective and you look at people from the Middle East, particularly the type of culture and the way they see America, the strikes needed to happen because there are countries, there are governments that their mission in life is to destroy the United States of America. So if Iran is building up the capability to cause havoc in the world, and the reason why people have a hard time seeing what I'm saying is it proves my point. You don't understand the way people in the Middle East think about Western civilization. And some of it has nothing to do with Trump. It has to do with what happened during George Bush. It has something to do with Obama. It happens to do with many, many presidents ago where they made decisions that impacted lives in the Middle East in a negative way. And they have grown this resentment towards America to say, hey, you guys should pay the price for that. Now, I'm not trying to oversimplify this because there's complications involved here, but hopefully you guys are picking up what I'm putting down, that the way that I feel about this is that overall, if the intelligence is correct, this is exactly what needed to happen because the people that are from Iran, particularly the government, if they had the chance to take out America, they would do it. If they had a chance to take out Israel, they would do it. So if this is going to prevent them from having that chance, again, a little uneasy, but I understand. I support it. And ultimately, the bottom line here, guys, who cares what I think? Because I'm not the president. He can do whatever he wants. Okay? So he doesn't owe me an explanation. That's how I see it. And here's someone making my point. When you live in freedom, you're blind to religious extremists who believe in one thing, and you are so naive with your freedom, you do not see it. That is the issue on the left. I agree. I also think that's the issue of America. If you've never been outside America, you're naive to the way that the world sees us and why the world has problems with us. Okay. Let's pull this one up. Jason Rios. Yeah, no more live videos for you, bro. Like, I can't stand to see you so unsure of your own beliefs. Stick to your edited versions. No harm, no foul if you do. What am I so unsure about? I support the president making the decision that he made. But I'm providing you guys different angles to it so you guys have some information to think about. So you're not just blindly listening to what people say in their opinions. Now, if you want some echo chamber stuff, you can go somewhere else. That's easy to do. I can just regurgitate everything that you see on social media from the right. I could do that. But I thought if I come on live and I give you guys different perspectives and I give you guys different angles and some context, it would help you think for yourself and exercise some discernment. Right? So, yeah, that would be my reaction to that. I'm not unsure about anything. I'm very sure. Okay. Okay, here's another good one. Travis Clay. You're making very broad assumptions about what people know about the Middle East. I'm in my 50s. I've been watching this crap for years. I doubt I'm in the minority. I'm not making broad assumptions. It is proven that majority of Americans do not empathize, do not understand, and cannot actually understand, if you think about it, the way that the Middle East sees America. Okay? That's a fact. It's just like most people don't understand, who's never lived in California, what it's like to live in California. They make their assumptions based on what the news has told them, and their impressions that they've gotten from people they've met that are from California. Doesn't mean it's true. There's a lot of conservatives in California, believe it or not, that don't like what's going on. And a lot of people think, here's the main assumption. Yeah, well, you guys caused this. That's an ignorant statement. It's a supermajority. There's nothing we can do about it. Supermajority of Democrats. So, yeah, I'm not making broad assumptions. I'm just telling you what the reality is most people, if you've never been outside America, if you've never been to Israel, if you've never been to Egypt, if you've never been to Iraq or Afghanistan or Kuwait or Qatar like I have, you really wouldn't understand why there are people out there that wake up in the morning looking to destroy Western civilization and why taking out nuclear sites is absolutely necessary. That's not an assumption. Exactly. Let's see here. Here we go. Dvorak is such a Trump glazer, my God. I don't know what that means. Let's go to the next one. Did not want them. Yeah. Let's see. Let's go to this one. Okay, so I don't believe it was tax money, but I will read this comment. Biden gave a lot of American tax money to Iran. So President Trump must do things differently. Congress did nothing with taxpayer money. It was just flowing to Iran. Yeah, what you're referring to is the, if the number is correct in my mind, I think it was like 60 billion worth of assets that were frozen. Under the Biden administration, it was unfrozen. So it gave Iran access to that money. And that's what some people believe led to what Hamas was able to do on October 7th. I think that's what you're talking about, which proves the point that when they have the money and they have the opportunity, they will attack Israel. They will attack other countries in the region. And if they really get a shot, they will attack America. I don't know why people don't think that's possible. Okay, here's a good one. The reality is that Trump has sided with the military-industrial complex. He has betrayed his base, and Tulsi should quit. Okay, so let's dive into that. How did he betray his base exactly? And this is a great exercise, guys. This is, matter of fact, this is what's wrong with politics, because it's the one area of life where it seems that logic does not exist. Meaning what? Let's say you are the owner of a business. You hire people, you brought on a team, you got 100 strong. And every month you guys have a meeting and you're telling them, hey guys, we're looking to expand. We're looking to do X, Y, or Z. And the conditions in the market change in a way that can't happen. And you, in the middle of the night, say, you know what? I got to make a hard decision here. I need to downsize. If we're going to survive these conditions that are taking place, I actually have to lay people off. Is that you portraying your employees? Or is that you experiencing the burden of leadership, making hard decisions that you know people are not going to agree with? It's not a defense. I'm just telling you what the reality is. Yeah. And here's a good point. The issue is that people want evidence of actual nuclear reactors in Iran. Nobody believes it after 9/11. And that, ladies and gentlemen, I totally agree with. Because even I'm skeptical. But I also have to understand, why would the government show me proof? I'm just an American citizen. I don't work at the Pentagon, right? I'm not part of the national security team. Like, that's why I said we live in a different time. Go back to President Obama. Was anybody demanding the same level of information we demand today? Think about that for a second. We're a little, what would you say? We are spoiled. We're spoiled. Like, they were asking the president a stupid question. And it was like, So what? You want the president to tell you the actual plan on national TV? You want him to tell you when he's actually going to strike Iran? Like, why would the president do that? It's called operational security. But we're spoiled. We want access to information, and we're forgetting there's just certain pieces of information we'll never get access to. That's insane. And that is another reality that we have to deal with. So what does that mean? You don't, whether you believe it or not, in the end, only history will prove whether or not it is true. We can only go off whatever information we have available to us. And if you don't support it, that's fine. That's your prerogative. And if you do, that's great too. All right. Yeah. And then someone responded and said, you don't believe there are reactors in Iran? The IAEA has confirmed they exist. And I'm sure someone out there that says, well, did you know that IAEA, these people are corrupt and they're paid and they never actually went there. And so we weren't able to confirm. I mean, guys, we'll go all day long with this. Right? Yeah. Only history will tell us if it's true. Let's see here. Let's get a couple more comments and then. Well, here's a good question. Why don't you guys answer this? What do you think the people from Iran that are here illegally going to do now that they know Trump hit Iran? I don't know. I haven't seen many of them getting detained in these ridiculous clips. False sense of entitlement might be what it is, Devori. Okay. It's okay. So let's talk about this. Here's a good one. Here's a rebuttal to what I said. No, it's not a case of being spoiled. It's a case of being lied to. Often that you no longer believe anything that comes from out of the mouths of the media. I agree with you. Don't believe anything that I say, please. That's why I started off this video by saying, I'm going to tell you what people are saying. I'm going to give you my 2 cents, but you got to make up your own mind. It's not for me to tell you what to believe in. You guys will always see that in my videos. I'm sure I will say something you disagree with. Newsflash, it's okay for you to disagree with me. It's okay for you to disagree with President Trump. I disagree with President Trump on how he handled Elon Musk in the beginning. I didn't like that. I disagree with the people he put into his cabinet. I don't like Pam Bondi like that. But that doesn't mean I have a derangement syndrome. We got to get out of this tribal mindset, ladies and gentlemen, and we have to be able to disagree without losing our marbles, okay? It's totally fine. And the other thing is, you're right. In a world where we've been lied to constantly by the federal government, what is really true? We don't really know, do we? I mean, let's just be honest. We don't. That's why my show is built the way that it is. If you guys can't tell, I don't like making my show all about opinions for me because I don't know. I like to say, hey, let's look at what they're saying. Let's look at what they're saying. Let's do some research and let's exercise some intelligence. Likely this is what's going on. Could still be wrong. But at least we went to the information and came up with a conclusion. Right? So some of you guys, I don't care if you disagree with what I have to say. I'm not I don't really care about that. My purpose in life is just to deliver the information and you make up your own mind. And it's not for me to tell you how to think. Let's see here. Moving on. Here we go. Someone understood what I was saying. Your California analogy is good. However, you have to magnify it by 10x. The culture, religion, beliefs, etc. are radically more different in the Middle East as compared to California. Of course. Yeah, I know that. Here's a good question. What will Iran, Russia, North Korea, and China do? That is a good question. Don't know the answer, but that is a good question. Because that is the reality. Iran is not alone. Okay. They're not. There is some level of support out there for them. And will Russia get involved? Will China get involved? North Korea? Who knows? Only time will tell. But that is a fact that should be considered in the way that you analyze this. Here we go. Gio says, social media is ruining the United States. People are too lazy to do their own research. If someone says that the moon is blue, some people would believe it. I agree. Guys, perfect example of that is when you see true social posts from President Trump. You read it and you're like, wow, did the president really say that? And then you go to his account and it's not there because he didn't say it. There are people who literally do that every day. They put up true social posts where they change the actual message to what they want it to be. And there's a lot of people who read it and be like, yep, that's what the president said. They don't even bother to go to his social media account, True Social, and actually look it up. Now, apply that same concept to everything that we talk about. So we try to do our best here to do a lot of the research for you. We try to show you some of the supporting information. Sometimes we just don't have access to it. But again, my goal here is to encourage you guys to think for yourself. Don't go based off how you feel. Do the research first. Because how you feel, that's flawed. Okay. Let's see here. All right. This is a great day for the USA. An Iranian nuclear country is dangerous for the entire world. Russia is too busy with Ukraine, and China can't afford to intervene with what Trump is doing. Good point. Very good point. Very good point. Here we go. Trump's first term is nothing like the second. F and flop. Biggest disappointment. Okay. You're entitled to your opinion. Yeah. Here's a good one. Trump puts his money where his mouth is. Lets everyone know we mean business. And I guess that is something you'll have to give the president some credit, which is at least he's doing what he said he'd do. He said that Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. He said that he may strike Iran. Right? He said he may help Israel. He never said he wouldn't. He never said he wouldn't. So, and actually, this brings me to my main point here. I don't know what is going to happen, but I'm not going to be afraid waiting. I live in California. It's bad enough for me here. Yeah. And that's the whole thing with talking about politics every day has continued to remind me of how important it is to think for yourself. And that no matter how crazy the world is, no matter what decisions these corrupt individuals in Congress are doing or in DC, in the end, it really doesn't matter. Your life is too short, man. You got to make your own decisions. Okay? Your life cannot be all about what the president is doing. That's the problem with Democrats today. You got people freaking literally burning cars. Okay. You have people looking to starve themselves in protest of the president. That is a mental illness. Don't fall into that trap. Okay. I talk about politics every day, but listen, it's not that serious for me, ladies and gentlemen. It should not be that serious for you. It will be okay. It really will. If Iran ends up striking our armed forces, in the end, we have the most powerful military. Congress will have to step in and approve or not approve it. And we will be okay. That's just the way that I see it. I'm not a doom and gloom guy. I think a lot of people fall into doom and gloom, especially as commentators or influencers, because it gets people's attention. It sells. But that's not me. I'm not a big oh my God, all hell's going to break loose. Sky's falling. I don't believe in that stuff. Okay. Yeah. Hopefully you guys understand. Here we go. Finally, someone who can back up what I'm saying. Bro, I've deployed to Afghanistan. People in the USA have no idea how spoiled they have it here and how harsh reality is of life in third world countries and the Middle East. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, if you can see the way they live, how they grew up, their belief system, including the religions that they practice, you would understand why, if intelligence is telling you that Iran has the ability to build a nuclear weapon within weeks, maybe months, there's no way you can allow that to happen. Because you're talking about people who are 110% convicted in the decision to destroy Western civilization as we know it. They will not hesitate. Okay? All right. Thank you, William, for posting that. And that's why I used the analogy earlier. It's like having kids. I mean, unless you have kids, you don't really understand kids, right? I mean, that's not a negative thing. It's reality is, we're all ignorant at something. Okay. All right. We'll keep some of the comments going, but I still want to, let me make sure. Let me see here. Actually, let's get to some more comments that I can react to here. And I'm talking about on X. Okay. As you guys know, I grew up in California. We're actually in the middle of moving to Texas. I don't think I actually publicly, officially announced this, but we got the house. We're moving. We'll be gone by the end of July. Okay. Middle of July, probably. But Governor Gavin Newsom, following the president's action in Iran, California State Threat Assessment Center is actively monitoring for any potential impacts in California. What? While there are no specific or credible counter threats we are aware of at this time, we urge everyone to stay vigilant and report suspicious activity. Oh, man, this is like, I'm telling you, it's a reality TV show, guys. Oh, my God. Read this comment. My man, you couldn't protect a Waymo from your own riders. Oh, godly. You have to laugh because, it's almost like they're sitting there thinking like, yeah, how can we, post some rage bait, right? There's no intelligence in that post. California State Threat Assessment Center is actively monitoring for any potential impacts in California. What does Iran have to do with California exactly? Please. We have more threats here in California. Oh, man, I could barely... I got to get off this because this is getting crazy. This is getting crazy. All right, let's move on. CCP Swalwell. I'm not going to read that. I won't do that to you guys because this is more talking points. We already know where that's going. Okay. Here's another criticism. So let me get this straight. Bombing a country that hasn't attacked us yet is now peace through strength. Make it make sense. Okay. So peace through strength does not mean we will never take a military action. Right? It's like being the leader in your own home. You would love for your home to be peaceful. You would love to never have confrontation. You would love to never have to discipline your children. But sooner or later, you will have to do so. Why? Because you're trying to nip the behavior in the bud before it accelerates or escalates. Right? I mean, it's just like at work. You have your subordinate, your employee. You see that they're starting to do something wrong. You got to stop it right there. But if you're an isolationist, which is, nah, I don't want to do anything, just let them keep doing it, it's going to come back to bite you sooner or later because it's going to escalate to where it impacts everybody. You know? So, yeah, I think the problem is people have different perceptions of what peace through strength means. Peace through strength means to me that your first decision is not to go to war. Your first decision is not to even exercise military action. Your first decision is to exercise diplomacy. That's what President Trump did. And when diplomacy fails, and the guy tried multiple times, according to his public statements, but given what happened today, I don't think we should probably put a lot of credence into his public statements because clearly he was only saying what he said to distract everybody, right? The fact of the matter is, peace through strength does not mean military action will not be taken. In fact, I would argue it means that when it's appropriate, it has to be taken because you don't want things to escalate. However, people will say, well, by taking that military action, you are escalating, right? That's what people say. So again, we can go talk about this like we're blue in the face, but you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. President Trump doesn't do anything. He turns his back on this, and it's proven that Iran has a great deal of uranium. And over the next 4 years, they grow that uranium to 90%. Next president comes into office, Iran has a nuclear weapon. What then? Or 10 years down the road, what then? That's what I'm saying. It's easy on the surface to say, hey, do not get involved with anything. 100%, no involvement whatsoever. I understand that mindset. Trust me, I do. I'm an introvert. I don't like going out there like that, okay? I like to stay to myself. I'm not naive either, people. Sometimes you got to get out there. You got to be situationally aware. You got to know what's going on in your neighborhood. Doesn't mean you need to be nosy, but you need to be aware. You know, you can't just be a spider in the corner somewhere. All right? Hopefully you guys are picking up what I'm putting down. All right. Let's see here. Let's see if we have anything else relevant here. Oh, AOC and MTG is going at it. The president's disastrous decision to bomb Iran without authorization is a grave violation of the Constitution and congressional war powers. We've already debunked that. He has impulsively risked launching a war that may ensnare us for generations. It is absolutely and clearly grounds for impeachment. And ladies and gentlemen, this is the problem with politics today. Because their go-to move is to impeach the president. They don't even attempt to come up with ways to work with him. Right? It's called tribalism. No one wants to work with each other. Right? It's when, if you guys remember when the Michigan governor went to the Oval Office, this lady was shook. She did not want to be seen with the president. And that's what politics will do to you, right? So Marjorie Taylor Greene shot back and said, "Shut up, you pathetic little hypocrite. You fully supported our military and intelligence community running the proxy war against Russia and Ukraine, and you voted to fund the Ukraine war under your president with dementia. You don't get to play anti-war and moral outrage anymore." Yeah. So exchanges like that, that's going to happen all day long. You know, I don't really care for that. It's not going to go anywhere. Okay. So here is propaganda from Iran's state media, which happens quite often, where they say something's happening, but it hasn't really happened. Like they released a video saying, it's going to be a great night for Israel, meaning they were going to just, bomb Israel out of control. Never actually happened. And there's been multiple videos on social media of this going around. Who's creating them? Who's releasing them? Who's publishing them? I don't know. And I don't really care to look, but this is pure propaganda in my opinion. It says here, breaking news. Iran state media just released this video claiming that only the entrance and exit of the nuclear sites were damaged, which confirms that these nuclear sites exist. Yeah. And that's what I'm saying. It's going to be based on the intelligence that truly forms my overall opinion in the end, right? Because that's the same thing with Iraq. It's the intelligence that ruined it for everyone. The intelligence claimed there was weapons of mass destruction. There wasn't. And if there was, they never found them. So if the intelligence is wrong here, once again, where they say they were close to a nuclear weapon, but they're not, then we can criticize President Trump all day long then. But that remains to be seen because that has not been proven. What has been proven is these sites do exist, though. Just understand that. These sites do exist. How close they are, I don't know. Because we can only go based off whatever they tell us. And again, we don't trust what the government says. So, yeah, let's keep moving here. Mike Johnson, Speaker of the House. The president made the right call and did what he needed to do. Leaders in Congress were aware of the urgency of the situation. And the commander-in-chief evaluated that the immediate danger outweighed the time it would take for Congress to act. The world's largest state-sponsored terrorism, which chants death to America, simply could not be allowed the opportunity to obtain and use nuclear weapons. The president fully respects the Article 1 power of Congress, and tonight's necessary, limited, and targeted strike follows the history and tradition of similar military actions under presidents of both parties. Yeah. And see, this gets into the problem with Speaker Johnson and Congress overall. So I want you guys to read this comment. Speaker Johnson, Trump is taking responsibility for his actions. Will you take responsibility for your insane inaction and passing only $9 billion out of hundreds of billions in Doge cuts? Why aren't you codifying any executive orders? What are you doing for us? So let me find this post for you guys that I retweeted from Caitlin Bennett that I think describes what you guys have been seeing in the comment section of this live or in the chat. If the internet over the last few weeks has shown us anything, is that the country isn't split between Republicans and Democrats. It's fractured so much more than that. And even if you take sides, each side has multiple sides divided against each other. You guys seen it in my chat. There are people who don't like what I said. Now they will unsubscribe and think I'm an idiot. And vice versa, right? So there used to be a time where we could disagree and you could be a Democrat or, hold on, guys. Sure.
Say night, Daddy.
Good night.
Exactly. Go ahead.
You want to give me a hug? There he is. All right, say hi. Say hi.
Yeah.
Hi.
Bye.
Yeah, bye. Good night.
Say hi. Hold on. Let's bring him full screen. There you go. Say hi. You ready to go to bed? You ready to go to bed? Okay. You can take him. Thank you. Thank you. All right. Bye. Okay. Let's catch up. Let's see here. I'm a father and a husband too, guys. So that's the way it works. Let's see. Trying to figure out where I lost my place here. Okay, I was right here. There we go. Okay. All right, getting back. So, listen. Sorry, got distracted. So my point to this message here, if we're getting back to the point here, if you take a side in today's politics, it's so tribal that even the side that you're taking has another side against it, right? So as I stated, overall, you have people who voted for President Trump. And then under President Trump and that vote, you have people who disagree with his deportations. You have some people who are like, deport everybody. And then you have some people who are buying into the lie that he's just randomly deporting anybody. And then now what we're witnessing with this conflict is Israel. We know that there's a part of conservatives who believe that Israel controls America. And some of them go to the level of what I would call Israel derangement syndrome. There's nothing that Israel can do that is correct. It's all bad. Every single thing is bad. And President Trump, right along with Israel, is bad too. And then you have people who do support Israel, and they support them 110% no matter what. They don't care how many hospitals Israel bombs in Gaza. They still will support them 110%. And then you have people that are conservatives like me, where I'm not stupid. Israel bombing 36 hospitals is a freaking problem. It is. But there's nothing I can do about it. Okay? I voted for a president. He's not going to do nothing about it either. And I understand that. I mean, there is no perfect president, ladies and gentlemen. They're not going to do everything we want them to do. And we have to understand that. So I'm explaining this because this post sums up what you're seeing in the chat from some people, that we get into this disagreement because of our principles. And then we think, well, since I disagree with you and it's my principle, I'm just going to throw you in the trash. And I just don't think as a society, we should be doing that. We should go back to the way it was 20 years ago, where we could disagree. You could be a Democrat, I could be a Republican, and we get along just fine. Now, I might be wishful thinking, and that might be a little naive of me, but that is my hope. I'm a very optimistic individual. I hope someday we can get back to that. So I like to set the example. I'm not going to lose any sleep on someone who's a Democrat. I don't care if you're a hardcore progressive. I'm not losing sleep over you. Okay? The only person that's on my mind is God, my wife, my son, and what I'm doing for you guys every day. Anything outside of that, it is what it is. I can't control it. Okay? So that's why I wanted to show you guys this post, because after this live, when you go onto social media or you're hanging around with your family or you're at work, you're going to find this, right? You probably have already experienced it, where you find out, someone sees that you believe in something and they treat you all crazy. I mean, it's not that serious, guys. Okay? All right. We're all Americans, and quite frankly, it's not that serious. Okay, so I'm done rambling. Let's move on here. Okay, let's go back to I got some super chats I want to go through. I got quite a few, so let's get to them. Terry O'Neill, thank you for all you do to bring us the news with a balanced, fair perspective. Appreciate it. Lord Talk says, no more wars. As a USMC vet, we must accept the fact that not everybody's going to like us. I've lost family for supporting Trump, who has stood by firmly, but history will repeat itself. Okay. Yeah. And here's the reality. Is there any room whatsoever in your mind that there is no president that will do everything you want them to do? Every president, every administration, no matter if we inherently support overall what they're doing or we disagree with everything that they're doing, the chances of them sooner or later disappointing you will happen. That's why I'm a guy that I don't like to live my life with expectations. I guess the only expectation I really have for the Trump administration is just don't blow things up. All right? Now, they're going to have to do a lot of correction to what happened under the Biden administration, obviously. But overall, the way the federal government is constructed, a successful presidency is when the president doesn't derail the actual country, right, and break it in half. Meaning, like, Joe Biden technically failed as a president because he opened the border. That was malpractice, negligence. So they say, oh, well, why doesn't President Trump just don't do anything? Just leave everything the way it was. No, that's what Joe Biden should have done. Okay. Even if I say, you know what, there's nothing he could have done about inflation, that was going to happen regardless. There's nothing he could have done differently about COVID, that was going to happen regardless. The one policy decision that could have been different, that they had the control to change at any moment, was the border. That was totally in their control. And that is a prime example of what I'm saying, where, having expectations, you will be an unhappy person. So my only expectation for the Trump administration is don't make the same mistake Joe Biden did, which is to do something that is considered to be malpractice or negligent on the job. Right? Don't do that. Okay? I appreciate your super chat and your service, by the way. Thank you. Arthur Zepeda, my guy. What a crazy Saturday night. Congratulations on your growing YouTube channel. Thank you. Art is a guy I've known for many, many years. Kind of lost contact. We used to be in a networking group together. Great guy. I appreciate your support, Art. And hope your family's doing great too. How exciting. Y'all are going to love Texas. I got here as soon as I could in 1979. That was a long time ago. Totally different, right? Okay, let's see here. Here we go. I lived in Asia. This is from Jumpin' Jack. I lived in Asia, Europe, the Middle East. Most of them hate Americans. The U.S. have pulled so much mush stuff for 50 plus years. They have a reason to dislike us. I agree. That's the other side of the story that, doesn't really get told in America's history. Here we go. Airbrush Crazy says, I'm an 82nd Airborne veteran. I believe in Trump and he will be ready for anything that comes our way. I'm sure he has thought of every scenario possible before making this decision. I agree. That's why I use the analogy of someone, a comment was like, oh, he's abandoned all of our principles. Okay. Again, it's like you hire a bunch of people. You have plans to expand the company. Market conditions change and you have to downsize. Are you abandoning all your principles? Or are you being a leader who has to make hard decisions? Hard decisions, most people don't like. Most people can't handle. And definitely most people don't agree. But if you were the person in that position and you got access to the information he got, and you got the briefings and the intelligence, who knows? You might have made the same decision. That's why I don't get about all this opinions on social. Everybody's entitled to their opinion, of course, but all this extra emotional reaction, I find it to be immature because you're not the person in the White House. You don't know the information they have. You see, if we compare it to the open border situation with Biden, they had information. We knew of the information. That wasn't classified information. We knew that if we stopped having Border Patrol enforce immigration law, that it would be a mass invasion. History has shown us that. But as it pertains to these strikes in Iran, no one's in the White House on this stream getting the actual information. Who knows? You might have made the same decision. So I get it. Every scenario, I'm sure they have. And it might, here's the other thing. It might be a decision that you hate, but you know you have to make it. How many times has that happened in your life? How many times have you, as an adult, you had to do something that you didn't want to do? And sometimes it was the decision that emotionally you were so conflicted. You're like, man, I just can't believe I got to do this. But it's the appropriate decision. It's better than no decision, as I said earlier. Another super chat from RunePlate123. Screw the haters. Keep doing you, brother. Not sure why they are watching. Should go back to MSNBC or CNN. I agree. All right. Super chat from GameStar70. Trump did right by striking Iran facilities, but he should not have appeased Pakistan to do so. I think he's saying just because Pakistan is Iran's neighbor, Pakistan was based for Taliban. Yeah, I agree with that. Greg Wilson, it had to be done. I do not want my grandchildren to have to deal with Iran. Good point. Good point. All right, here we go. Oh, this is another comment. Brother, I voted Trump. You're trying to rationalize this nonsense. It's the same nonsense we told ourselves before going to Iraq and Afghanistan. All right, for the sake of everybody's time here, my question to you, Lord Tark, are you saying the situation with Iran is the exact same as the situation with Iraq and Afghanistan? And you do understand Iraq and Afghanistan are totally two different situations. I hope you understand that too. I hope you understand that. It's easy to lump them into the same conversation, but technically, they're not really the same. Those are two separate wars. It's just a question. I mean, why don't you guys answer? Do you guys believe what's happening with Iran is the exact same thing that happened with Iraq and Afghanistan? How many of you guys believe that? And if you believe it, can you explain why? And when you're explaining why, can you give me a concrete example of why it is the same? Given everything you know about Iran and what they have the ability to do if the intelligence is correct, versus Iraq and Afghanistan. Okay. Now, I vaguely remember because when 9/11 happened, I was in middle school. I remember we went into Afghanistan first. Most people don't know that, or unless they've done their research. It was only later we went into Iraq. But point being is we went in there. Right? We went after it. And, of course, 9/11 took place. So I'm not understanding why people keep trying to compare and say that they are the same. You know, it sounds like, and I don't mean to, I guess, be divisive here, but it sounds like an individual who's been cheated on and they're thinking it's the same thing all over again. But it's not the same thing. It's a different situation. And there's not credible evidence to say that this is the same thing as Iraq or Afghanistan. What people are doing is because they don't believe in intelligence or what the government is saying, which is I would support. I don't believe what they say either. That's why you guys have been hearing me out throughout this video. If the intelligence is correct, then it's the right decision for President Trump. But the problem here is not even, anti-war. Is that people that just don't trust intelligence whatsoever, and I don't blame them. But again, it's like being cheated on. You can't live your life, believing everybody's going to cheat on you, right? You have to exercise discernment, critical thinking. And we have way more evidence when it comes to Iran than we ever did with Iraq and Afghanistan. So there's that. Let's see if we get some of you guys' answers. Let's see here. Thank you. One was a full-fledged war. This was strategic strikes. Exactly. All right, let me get back to my super chats here. All right, I'm not going to be adding his chats anymore, but all right, one more and then we'll move on from you. There's always going to be nations who don't already address this. Yeah, we'll move on. Let me see here. I got some duplicates here. That's why it's taking a little time here. All right, here's one from Terry Haggard. We have been turning a blind eye since 1979. Iran funded the suicide bomber in Lebanon. that killed about 500 American soldiers in the 1980s. And see that key piece of information? Yeah, it adds to the context. You know, again, I tried to refrain from telling you guys what to think. I just hope that you guys do your research and you actually look into the history. It's like Ted Cruz and Tucker Carlson, if you guys saw that interview. Why does Ted Cruz not know anything about Iran? That's craziness. Right? I mean, if you're going to be a fierce defender of something, I would assume you would do research. Right? And so if you are a fierce defender of the idea that what President Trump is doing is totally wrong and you're willing to say, I don't support him anymore, I hope you do your research and you back that up with facts, right, in history, and you could prove that the intelligence is false and that you could prove that it doesn't make any sense to take out these nuclear sites. If you can do that, hats off, right? Okay. Let me get to some more comments here. Here we go. Trump may just be the come on. I'm not going down that road. Yeah, to be fair, I even knew Iran's population. I agree. Yeah, so, and here's the other thing too. This is a great lesson for everybody. You don't have to take my advice. But whenever a major event occurs, you know, I think something I've learned, let me back up. Let me say it this way. One of the biggest lessons I've learned by doing a show every single day in regards to politics is that just because a big event happens doesn't mean you have to react. That's why you don't usually see me go live reacting all the time. This is probably one of the few times I've done this because my message in this video wasn't to say whether or not what President Trump is doing is correct. It's to get you guys to think for yourselves. That's my purpose here. Okay. And I'm saying that because social media is so filled with noise. When you react too quickly, you'll find that in some cases you're wrong. You didn't wait. You didn't observe everything first. You didn't go through the facts. You just had to say whatever you had to say. And I still believe there's a lot of premature reactions right now. We do not know where this is going to go yet. We can assume, we can make statements and think we know, but nobody knows. Nobody knows what's going to happen next. Only the government in Iran knows what they're going to do next. Okay? And I'm sure Pete Hegseth, the military, they know what they're going to do if there is a retaliation. They've already run through those scenarios. But overall, we don't know collectively what's going to happen. So don't lose any sleep, ladies and gentlemen. Don't feel like you have to react every single time there is, breaking news to the point where you are saying things and then a week later you're like, yeah, seems like that's not what it really was. You don't have to do that to yourself. But that's the world we live in. That's the reality. I understand that. But let me show you. I guess I have to show you instead of tell you. Let me show you. Let me show you. Here's another example. Here is another example of what I'm talking about. Look at this. For the first time ever, this is from Kim Iverson. For the first time ever, I'll be voting straight Democrat in the midterms just to signal my absolute disgust with this administration's betrayal. I didn't know. I guess that's what I'm trying to understand. Is this a betrayal? Did President Trump promise he would not take a military action against another country? Did he ever promise that? It's a great question. I want to see the video footage of him promising he would never do this. I guess what I'm trying to get you guys to see is that even if you are outraged like Kim Iverson, why are you so surprised? Why do you feel betrayed? If you listen to the man for the last 20 years, it's like being betrayed when it came to tariffs. I mean, based on recorded history, the number one thing President Trump always talked about was tariffs. You know what the second thing was? The border. And then you know what the third thing was? Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. So if President Trump believes they're close, and what's close? Because close to you might be different to me. Close to President Trump might be they're 50% of the way. That's too close. Right? So when I see posts like this, I respect the person's opinion because we're all entitled to one. But what I don't understand is this narrative that President Trump is betraying American first principles. If he's going to put America first, wouldn't it mean he'd have to make decisions that would prevent countries from attacking America in a way where they would be able to do so? Does this action weaken Iran's ability to attack America? I would think so. Maybe, especially in over the next 4 years, if right, the intelligence is true and they were successful in their operation, right? If that is true, isn't Iran weaker than they've ever been at this point? So, again, people have different interpretations of America first. That's the world we live in. That is the world we live in. And according to the White House, according to J.D. Vance, President Trump is the one who decides what America first looks like and what it means. I kind of disagree. I actually think collectively the people, the will of the people are the ones who decide. But, you know, that's me disagreeing, in case for all you people who say, oh, you're just supporting President Trump, you always agree. Okay. I'd rather have a president who drops bombs on Iran in order to stop them from going nuclear than one making payments to them. Yikes. Yeah, that's one point. And here is the question that matters. And if you guys have been watching up to this point, this is what actually gets my attention. This is what makes me truly think. Right? This whole betraying America first principles, that's a waste of energy. This is worthy of our energy. Scott Adams, how would we know the Iranian nuclear facilities are totally obliterated? It's a phenomenal question. Phenomenal question. But I told you the problem is, why would the federal government show us the information? I'm curious. Did we actually get to see Osama bin Laden's body? Did we get to see that? Now, some people say they saw the body thrown into the ocean. How do we know it's his body? So we could go down that road all day long, you know, but it is a phenomenal question to ask. I respect it. How do we know that Iranian nuclear facilities are totally obliterated? I think this is a problem when it comes to reporting in the media. What information should we expect to be reported? What information should we expect that is also appropriate to release to the public in like immediately, like right after an operation? It's like, should we have expected to see video footage and photos from the Houthi attacks? Should we have expected to see video footage immediately after they raided Osama bin Laden and caught him? I'm asking questions because when Scott Adams poses this question, how far does this go exactly? What is the appropriate amount of information should we release publicly immediately? And I'm talking about, when I say we, the White House. Why is this an important question to ask? Because you guys have pointed it out time and time again in the chat. We are a country at this point where we don't believe anything that we are being told, especially when it comes from the government. And that is a valid position. I don't disagree with that. I told you guys, I don't agree, or I don't trust everything they say. What did Jay-Z say? What did he say? He said, believe nothing of what you hear and only half of what you see. I respect that. I agree. Neville says, verification is the big problem. Unless the human intelligence is so good that we can track all of the fissile material, this doesn't end until unconditional surrender or regime change. Yeah. So, yeah, that's a problem. That is a problem. Thank you. Appreciate that. That is a huge problem. And I told you, we live in a time where people don't trust what they're being told. What you see, you can only believe half of it. And you can't believe anything that you hear. This is what it means to think for yourself. Critically think, ladies and gentlemen. We don't know. We can only go based off what the president told us. And even that doesn't mean it's true, because the president just said he would take 2 weeks. He just literally said that, 2 days ago? And now look at where we're at. Another comment said, we can't, and they probably weren't. Iran built those facilities specifically to withstand the threat of U.S. bombs. They're at least 80 meters underground. Our bunker busters maybe touch 6 meters if we're lucky. And you know what's interesting? I actually agree with that, because I remember they were giving us a history lesson when I deployed about the intelligence of the enemy. So let's go full screen with this. It's a great lesson. The intelligence of the enemy. So America, in the beginning of the Afghanistan and Iraq, we learned a very valuable lesson. So when we first sent soldiers over there, they had nothing. They didn't have the appropriate protection. The vehicles were not armored. They were your classic Humvees. I mean, these things got destroyed immediately. Lives were lost. And then the military got smart and said, oh, crap, we got to protect our soldiers. They need body armor. They need armored Humvees. And so they started building them and they shipped them over there. And then the enemy said, oh, well, we'll change out the type of ammunition we're using. And then the military was like, oh, crap, we got to change the type of armored material that we are using to withstand their new ammunition. Meaning, like, let's say in the beginning they were using bullets, then they started using RPGs. You guys get what I'm saying? So then the military truly starts to build what we would call up-armored Humvees. Like, this stuff was heavy. Like, if you see the vehicle turn, it's like leaning, because it's just so heavy. Well, the enemy was like, okay, well, we'll just start shooting copper at the vehicle, because copper melts through anything, in case you guys didn't know that. And then talk about IEDs. So military was like, okay, we'll just travel down the road, you know, blah, blah. And then vehicles started getting blown up. So then the enemy got smart and was like, well, we'll get them to think that the IED is right here, when really it was either 2 meters back or 10 meters in the front, right? You guys understand what I'm saying? Like, people think people in the Middle East are stupid. These people are intelligent. So anytime America, like these bombs, that's why I said it's an appropriate question, because if they really built it that deep, they're not stupid. So America, if it was not successful, whoever manufactures bombs and ammunition looks like they're going to make a lot of money. Because if this is not successful, that means someone needs to come up with a bomb that can penetrate that deep. I think it's a great history lesson. I think it's one of the most profound lessons I got when I served in the Army. It was fascinating to learn that, and how it's different iterations, and every iteration lives were lost, because that was the only way to find out, hey, this isn't working. Now we have to change. Same thing with helicopters. In the beginning, helicopters didn't have any armor plates. So they shoot up at the helicopters, people die. Then the military started to make armored plates, shipped it overseas, found out that it was making the helicopters too heavy. So they weren't able to do what they were able to do. So they still got blown out of the sky. So then what? So then the military had to say, hey, we need to modify these armored plates. We need to find a way to make it more lighter. Right? I mean, hopefully you guys are getting what I'm saying. Okay. Let's get back to your guys' comments here. Yeah, here's a good point. The bunker bomb has about 200 feet penetration before detonation. Okay. All right, Steven says he said up to 2 weeks. The Iranian ambassador, no, they weren't going to negotiate. Get your info right. I don't know what I got wrong. What I'm saying is what President Trump and our leaders in Washington say publicly does not mean it's true. That they're saying things publicly because they're running misdirection. That's what the president did. That's what I'm saying. We don't really know what is technically true because even what they're releasing publicly is misdirection because they know Iran and our enemies are watching. Let's exercise some intelligence here. All right. Okay, I think we're getting to the end here. Let me read some more super chats. Jonathan writes, turn the Middle East into glass. That way there is no possible more having to babysit these incompetent Middle Eastern countries. Well, we wouldn't do that. Come on now. Can anyone stop a nuke after it is launched? Of course they can. Laquita Smith says, so thank you for your honesty, service to our country, and Christian values. Appreciate you watching. Kim Rosamond says, love watching you. Keep doing what you're doing. Thank you. T and K Hunter Gear writes, former infantry Marine with 2 tours to Afghanistan. This was long overdue. Iran has been behind the death of Americans for decades. The regime is near being finished, and it's about time. Yeah. So T and K Hunter Gear, what's your perspective on how Americans see this? Do you think they're seeing this from the wrong perspective for the people who are critical of this decision? What do you think that they're missing? What do you think they don't understand? Because I don't even think you have to be in the infantry, like in the military, as far as that is concerned. Like if you were able to just go to the country and just see how they live, I mean, I think that'd be enough to see like, oh, okay. Yeah, I could see why Iran should never be close to having a nuclear weapon. Yeah, if you're still watching, I'd love to see what you have to say about that. What do you think people are getting wrong about this? 392Q says, what are you doing for your 1 million subscribers? I don't know. I don't know. I'll be honest with you guys. I try not to look at the numbers so much. I try to just focus on the videos. Yeah, that's what I try to do. You guys got to understand, this is not actually easy to do. I'll be honest with you. It's pretty difficult for what we're, just think about what we're talking about tonight. How do I know exactly what happened? Nobody knows except the people who are involved in the decision making. So every day we have to try to figure out how to deliver information without being tribal or being biased, and then also give you enough information for you to make up your own, whatever you think to be true. And so that's a daily challenge. It's a daily challenge. And so, yeah, I'm more concerned with that than I am getting to 1 million subscribers, to be honest with you. If I was focused on 1 million subscribers, I'd psych myself out. And, so I don't really try to think about it that much. But I am grateful. So, long-winded answer, but the bottom line is we'll probably do a live stream. Yeah, we'll probably do a live stream. I got some upcoming projects that we're going to be launching that I think you'll love to hear. We have an actual TV app that we will be releasing. I have a lot of people who watch me on TV and they don't like the ads that come on YouTube, even some of the ads that I read. And I'd like to give them my episode without any ads whatsoever. And that would be through our TV app. So we're about 60 days from that at this point. Because, they have to build it and get it approved. And so we'll talk more about that once I reach 1 million subscribers on how to get involved with that. Also, we have interviews that we're going to start doing. So definitely a lot of people from Congress, a lot of, experts, a lot of people who know way more than I do on a lot of these topics. We definitely are going to start doing that once we hit 1 million. Local community, we're going to build that out as well. I like to get to know you guys a little bit more. I want you guys to know me a little bit more. And so we're going to have that as well. So there's a lot of things coming up. There's a lot of things coming up that we'll celebrate when I get to 1 million subscribers on that live stream that I will go into depth. Great question. GYSMO. Trust me on this. Other than American homies, all other countries seem happy and will sleep well tonight knowing Iran got busted out of a nuclear head over. I don't know what you're trying to write, but I get it. I get what you're trying to say. You're a person with common sense. You say, in fact, some people live in La La Land. Thank you for that. I agree. Anthony says, Obama bombed Syria for years, killing American citizens in the process. Everyone seems to have forgotten that part of history. Great point. Great point. And not only did he kill American citizens, he killed women and children too. See, that's why I'm not naive, guys. I know America is not innocent. We are, when it comes to what we're doing internationally, we've done some bad things, no question. And that's just information we know about. What about all the things the CIA is involved in? Imagine that. So I'm not naive, but I'm still grateful for this country. Unlike what they teach these kids at the university, they teach them to hate our country. That is so ridiculous. So, I'd rather be in the United States than North Korea, right? I can decide what my religion is. I can pretty much say what I want, think what I want, get into whatever career I really want to get into. I can marry anybody I want to, right? I get to eat whatever I really want to, right? I mean, in other countries, that doesn't exist. There's countries where it's like, no, you will be married to so-and-so. You will go to this career. You will live here. This will be your name. End of story. So, but they teach kids to hate our country, which is a sad thing. Cheryl says, I love your take on things. It makes sense. Thank you for your open-minded perspective. Appreciate it. Terry O'Neill says, I think I read this one. Thank you for your balance. Fair perspective. Absolutely. Okay, so we're going to wrap up here. India Hines, right? No issues not knowing. Thank you for what you do. You're my source to absorb news 3 times a day and appreciate you. Appreciate you. I'm not going to read that. Okay. Let me go to this list here. Let's see here. Wait, I'm sure. Can I address a couple more things before we end this? Okay. So I had okay. So I heard this argument. So you guys see this comment? If Trump was on the Epstein list, why wasn't that info released to prevent him from being president twice? Okay. Again, it goes back to what I've been saying this entire video. So people say things, but they have no supporting information or documents to prove otherwise. So they have to speculate. Now, obviously, Elon Musk was wrong for saying what he said about the president. Even if it was true, it was wrong for him to say, technically. It's the president of the United States. I mean, you were working with him. Why would you say that? Your kid was holding hands with the president. Kind of stupid thing to say, which is why he deleted the post. But that doesn't stop people from bringing it up. People still today think that President Trump is on the Epstein list and he is a pedophile. So let's just run that dog really quickly here. Let me ask you a question. If you're on the Epstein list, does that mean you're a pedophile? Yes or no? Actually, here's a better question. What does it mean that you're on the Epstein list? What is the list exactly? Is it a list that says these are Epstein's known associates? Is it a list that says this is people who visited his home, his island? Is it people he went to church with? I mean, what is the list exactly? Now, I'm on the opinion they'll never release the list because there's too many powerful people on the list. And we live in a country today, as we're seeing with the Epstein list, that if your name is on it, people believe you're a pedophile automatically. It's like the Diddy freak-offs. If you went to a Diddy party, that means you were part of whatever he was doing. So that's like, I'm sure some people out there have had this experience where you went to a party and there was something nefarious happening at the party. You didn't necessarily know about it, but something bad went down after the party. People were second guessing you because you were at the party, but you didn't even have anything to do with it. So, I don't know. That's what I said. Believe whatever you guys want. Believe whatever you guys want. I would just argue that whatever you believe, please make sure you have supporting documentation to back up what you're saying. Facts. Because if you don't, then all you're doing is just speculating, and there's no value in that, honestly. Yeah, here's a good one. Government, I think you meant to say government isn't so public. Yet we had the F-117 for years before it became public. I was in the Air Force, worked on the B-1 and knew about it. Yeah, I don't know what you're trying to say. Let's see here. Yeah, and here's the reality. Imagine if we had to have Congress prior approval, how much time would it take the Democrats to call Iran and give them a heads up? Yeah, just out of spite of President Trump. Because that's the type of attitude that they have. Let's see here. Just trying to make sure there's anything else here. Yeah, I know, Jeffrey. I know, Jeffrey, but people don't realize that. Okay. All right. William says Iran is attacking Israel again. So let's see if that's true. I'm not seeing any reports about it. Okay. But yeah, I'm not really seeing anything here. Let's see. Iran retaliates Israel. Give me a second, guys. Yeah, I don't see any reports of that. I don't see anything like that. Okay, let's move on. Oh, Fox Live. That's why. Yeah, I'm not watching Fox Live. Let's see here. Oh, I see. Okay. Yeah. So they're saying that sirens sound in Tel Aviv for incoming missiles from Iran. Yeah. I mean, yeah, I'm not surprised by that. Let's see. Let's do this. Let's see if we can actually hear the sirens. No, I can't hear them. Okay. Yeah, so we'll see what happens. I think we'll probably all be asleep once the missiles arrive. Or I think I will be probably. All right. Here's a good one for us to leave with. When a pot is boiling over, you either turn down the temperature or pour the water out. Either way, you have to do something. I agree. Got to make a decision. Yeah, and this is definitely the saddest thing I think of it all. Democrats stand with Iran now. Anyone but America. I believe that because their reactions are just. That's why I showed you a little bit, but it just gets kind of exhausting after a while. Yeah, it gets a little exhausting. Because they it's like they sent out a memo and they all say the same thing. And just because I'm a thorough individual, I'll just show it to you. Liz. Congress did not authorize this war. It's not a war. Here's another one. I condemn in the strongest terms the president's decision to order the U.S. military strike Iran's nuclear sites. Now, a lot of these Democrats I don't even follow on X, but they're all posting at the same time, which is why I'm continuing to see them. Okay. Doesn't take much. Here's another one. Talib. President Trump sending U.S. troops to bomb Iran without the consent of Congress is a blatant violation of the Constitution. Okay. Sure it is. Sure it is. What else we got? I'm sure there's another one that's going to come up here. I'm sure there is another one. Well, here's something that'll make you laugh. Sadly, Iran will likely be able to find a district court judge to rule in his favor against Trump. Oh, Senator Van Hollen, the guy who's in love with Mr. Garcia. You guys remember that? Trump said he would end wars. Tonight, he dragged us into one. His decision violates the Constitution. You see, man, I just don't understand why they go like, just stop at he dragged us into one. You don't have to say his decision violates the Constitution because you know it doesn't. That's not true. Right? It's like they try to find the most extreme statement and it's all reactionary. And when you're always reacting, that means you're not responding, you're not thinking, you're just reacting out of emotion. So it's terrible that I'm not even going to read his. That's ridiculous. Maybe this will make you laugh. Look at this. Look at this. B2. You guys get it? It's not bad. It's fun. Okay. All right. Now I'm going to stop playing around with you guys. Listen, we don't know what's going to happen, but as time goes on, we'll get more information and we'll see if this decision from President Trump was the right one. He believes it was the right decision. So that's all we can go on for right now. Again, as I wrap up, I'm going to summarize. We started off this video by watching President Trump make his statement, which was short and sweet. If you guys want to watch it, go ahead. But he really didn't say anything profound, in my opinion. Bottom line is it came with criticism, no question. As I just showed you, there are people who are saying President Trump has betrayed America first. He has betrayed his base. And now people are going to drop him. Okay. So that's one criticism. But they can't really provide concrete examples on why it is a betrayal. They just say it is. I'd love to see video footage that proves why President Trump promised A, but then he did B. I'm not seeing that. Number two, the other criticism that you're going to see is that he did not have congressional approval to exercise or order military strikes. As you've seen throughout this video, every president since 9/11, especially, probably even before that, but has the authority to execute military airstrikes. In fact, Obama, I don't think anybody comes close, especially if you think about the drone program that really, I would say, peaked under him. There's no way to compare, but that is the criticism, that he's doing it without Congress. He's violating the Constitution. And most of that's going to come from Democrats. And then the other criticism is that he's flying off the handle. He's erratic. He doesn't know what he's doing. Okay. Well, if he didn't know what he's doing, why did everybody think that B-2 bombers were going to Guam? Why did everybody think that, for the most part, we didn't know when this was going to happen? Why were there no leaks? There's plenty of leaks under Pete Hegseth as it pertains to Signalgate. You didn't hear nothing of this. Okay? But those are the criticisms. The other criticism that I think is an intellectual one, I think the only one that truly matters, is how do we know that this mission was successful? How do we know that the nuclear facilities were obliterated, as Scott Adams posted? I think that is a fair question to ask. Don't know the answer. Don't know when we'll know the answer. Don't know how we will know the answer. And it's because we live in a world today where we don't trust anything that they say, given the lies that happen with weapons of mass destruction. I get it. But that is the criticism you're going to see. So you're going to have to make up your own mind on what you believe to be true. Now, we also talked about some of the good things that may come of this. Again, don't know, but could happen. Iran could step down and not retaliate against the United States. So far, they haven't. I already just showed you, based on someone's comment, that they have retaliated against Israel. So there's that. But the positive here is that maybe it motivates the Iranian people to overthrow their government. As some veterans have said in my chat, this is a long time coming. President Trump finally had the balls to do what needed to be done. Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon, and this was a smart and strategic decision to neutralize that. But again, it goes back to the only criticism that I'm actually listening to is, how do we know the mission was a success? How do we know the nuclear facilities were obliterated? How do we know that? And again, as I go back and forth here, how would we know that? Is that information that the government can release publicly? I don't know. It's a good question. How do we know they can release this information publicly? Did they release Osama bin Laden's information publicly? No, they didn't. They just told us. Now, they might release this information a couple months from now, maybe. But that's why it's not a black and white world, ladies and gentlemen. It's complicated. And so don't fall into echo chambers. Don't be a tribal individual. Don't take my word for anything. Do your own research. All I encourage you to do is when you do your own research, make sure you look at the facts and come up with your own conclusions based on those facts. Okay. And so we also talked about the fact that if the intelligence, if the intelligence is true, then my personal opinion and how I feel about this, then this was a great decision from the president. Hard one to make, especially when you're talking about America first, because there's a lot of different interpretations of America first. There's a lot of different interpretations of peace through strength. So it's a tough decision knowing that if he does something, he's going to piss people off. If he doesn't do anything, he'll piss people off. So at the end of the day, burden of leadership, if you're going to make a decision, just make it, get it over with. If you're wrong, you're wrong. If you're right, you're right. At least you made a decision. That's how I feel about it. If he felt that it was time to do it, he did it. Good for him. At least he did something. And in time, we'll find out if it was the right move or not. So that's all I have to say. I'm done rambling. I appreciate everybody for watching. I definitely appreciate everybody who is subscribed. If you're not subscribed, please subscribe now, okay? We're almost to 1 million, of course. Got a lot of great announcements coming. Once we hit 1 million subscribers, that's when I'll probably do my next live. Also, I've discussed with my team, particularly my wife actually recommended this, which is to start doing a weekly live show, possibly on Thursdays. Currently, we're in the middle of moving, so that probably won't start until after I move and get settled in Texas. What was the other thing? But yeah, shout out to you guys for following me. Shout out to my team, Tyler, Ashley, Sam. Shout out to my wife, always supporting me, my son. And shout out to God. It's his grace. It's his blessings that allowed me to do what I'm doing. And I want to say thank you guys. God bless you. Obviously, God bless the United States of America. Take care, everyone. Have a great night.